Okay, so welcome everyone. It's National Breastfeeding Month, and I'm Ashley. I'm lactation NP with Naturi Lactation, and we'll be having our series Voices of Milk and Motherhood. I have here with me Josephine McFarland. Thank you for joining us today to share your story. So, just with a real quick introduction, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and why did I invite you here?
Hey everyone, it is a pleasure to be able to be here with Ashley this afternoon. It is very hot in New York right now, hence I am melting away. Nonetheless, I am going to feel very cool in a moment because we're talking about one of my most favorite topics, breastfeeding. My name is Josephine McFarland, and I'm the proud mom of 11-year-old twin boys. Everyone, I am surviving. I am now in my 11th year of having fraternal twins. I am a licensed social worker, a motivational speaker, and I work with children to ensure that they reach their best outcomes.
So thank you for that great introduction of yourself. And I really appreciate you sitting here down with me on the Zoom, even on this hot day, to discuss something so important and unique. Breastfeeding twins exclusively is something that is very infrequent. According to the CDC, it shows that 20% of moms literally would actually meet their breastfeeding goes up to 3 months. But of course, they don't have the data so much updated, but it's known to be reported as less. So we have here Josephine, and she is an exclusive breastfeeding mom to twins. And as you said, they're 11 years old. I thought it would just be such an amazing opportunity to really talk to you, interview, find out what did you do? Like, how was it? To really help other women, even people in general, understand that it is possible. And that is something that I'm so eager to hear more about your story, and I'm sure the audience is excited as well. So tell me about your initial experience becoming a mom to twins, and what are your thoughts about breastfeeding in general?
Ashley, before I even answer your question, I did not know I was that much of an anomaly. I knew that it's very, very difficult to breastfeed one child, much less two children, especially if you're doing it in tandem as opposed to doing them one at a time. For me, initially, when I heard that I was going to have twins, I was excited because, come on, who doesn't want to have twins? It's a dream. A one-shot deal having two children all at once, and my family was excited. Everyone was just completely excited about having twins because we haven't had twins in my family for quite a while. In my immediate family, I'm the only one with twins, hence everyone was excited about it. I actually did not really think much about breastfeeding in the beginning. Culturally speaking, I grew up in Jamaica and I knew a lot of people who breastfed and moms who did it successfully. I also knew that other mothers chose to feed their children via formula. For me, my thought perspective was I just want to deliver healthy children. And then after that, I would make the best decision as to whether or not I would breastfeed them or do it via formula. What's interesting though, Ashley, is that even though I had prenatal classes, there was very little information about breastfeeding at all. They just focused on the pregnancy and making sure that I had a safe delivery. Very little about breastfeeding.
Oh,
And if you want, I
wow.
could go into my experience, but I defer to you as to how you want to do it.
Okay. Well, that is something that is even more remarkable because many times going into breastfeeding and wanting to breastfeed, a lot of times it's a thought that most moms do make beforehand. I know culturally, as you described, breastfeeding is considered a norm. So tell me, decision, like what made you continue or even start, or even was there any particular experience that you had just said, okay, well, I'm going to continue going with the breastfeeding. Like, I'm not even going to introduce formula. Like, what made you make that decision?
Interestingly enough, when I was in the hospital with my twins, they taught me how to breastfeed my sons. And initially it was breastfeeding one child, then the other one in the hospital is twin A and twin B. The first child that was born, the second child that was born. And my son successfully latched and we had zero issues at the hospital. The nurses were happy, the doctors were happy, family was happy, mommy and babies were happy. And I figured, well, there's nothing wrong. They're latching, they're growing, and I believe I can do this. When I got home from the hospital and I opened up my bag, I didn't even realize what was in my bag. I saw that the hospital had given me formula for my sons, and I was wondering, why do I have formula in my bag? They never got formula while we were in the hospital. And I had told them that I'm going to breastfeed and see what happens. If I'm not able to do it, then I suppose I can always explore other options. But right now, they're doing pretty well. And there's really no reason. But I found that they gave me several bottles of
Oh,
formula,
wow.
actually cans, several cans of formula, and they gave me baby bottles as well too. And again, I didn't ask for it. Nonetheless, I put it to the side and I just continued doing what I was taught in the hospital. In the very beginning, things were okay, but I'm not quite sure if it's the exhaustion from breastfeeding twins and I was doing it tandemly. It was a lot of work. And I had them on schedule from when they were in the hospital. I
Mhm.
had a schedule as to when they would basically eat, when they would sleep, when I would change them, everything. So baby, eat, sleep, poop, and I just continued. And I would write everything down on my cell phone. And initially, I was feeding them one at a time. Then I started doing tandem because it was too much. But then eventually, I got really tired. And I think that impacted the level of milk I was able to produce. And then eventually, I had some issues with the latching with the children. And again, I'm not sure if it's because I was really, really tired or maybe one of the twins. I don't know what happened. It just, at some point, it just wasn't working at all. My nipples started getting really, really sore. Then I decided to explore hiring a lactation consultant to be able to assist me to make sure that not only was I doing what's best for my twins, but I was capable of producing enough milk to ensure that they were properly getting the nutrients that they needed to develop and meet their milestones. No mother wants to have a child that's not meeting their milestones or to have a hungry baby. Hungry baby is the worst thing ever. No one wants to see that happen. I
Right.
actually live in Long Island. I had to hike to Harlem to meet my first lactation consultant, and
Okay.
it really was a bad experience. First of all, the drive was long from Long Island to Harlem.
Wow.
And just the way she talked about breastfeeding and the way she interacted with me, it was not a very user-friendly way of interacting with a new mom who really was struggling at that point with breastfeeding. And I just X'd her out of my calendar. I never went back to her. I
Mm.
watched a lot of videos on YouTube. I spoke to my mom, who was amazing. She had breastfed my younger brother until he was about 9 months or a year exclusively. And I leaned really heavily on her to try to figure out what worked and what did not work. And some of her techniques helped a lot, but my nipples were still a little bit sore. Of course, she said, "What about Ashley?" I forgot that Ashley was a nurse. I don't know why, but for some reason I forgot. And she said, "Why not just try and see maybe Ashley can help you out?" And that you did. You were my superhero coming in to save the day. And once you did your assessment, you saw what I did. You gave me a lot of tips as to how to make it more effective. And I was just soaring from that point on. I had no further issues at all. But it was very challenging in the beginning before you helped me out. And kudos, thank you again for all of your assistance. You made a world of a difference.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. And from what I remember, I mean, it was 11 years ago, but from what I remember, I felt that you were prepared. You know, you knew about a lot. You had a lot of resources. What were some of the resources that you used while, whether before you had your baby or even early in after you have your baby? And because I saw that you cupped fed your baby.
Right, I
Did you
did.
give your baby as any bottles? Like, did you
Never.
feed them?
I never gave my twins any bottles at all. For me, what made me really commit to breastfeeding is the fact, as I said, in the hospital, I had zero issues. And I saw that I was really bonding with my son. My mom's story about how well she was able to breastfeed my younger brother and the fact that he never really got sick as a child. I wanted to pass that legacy on to my own children and have that be my story. I was told by a family member who really meant well that I could not breastfeed. You can't tell Josephine she can't do anything. That was my call of action. You're telling me that I really can't breastfeed. God gave me breasts for a reason. I have twins. I don't have any medical issues. And you're telling me that I can't do it. Hence, I went into research mode, and you're absolutely correct. I had a lot of information. I had, as I noted earlier, went to a lactation consultant in Harlem. It didn't work. I knew at that point that I had to find out what would work for me and my twins and not necessarily what other people felt was going to be best for me. And based on my research, I was informed that as a mom, it matters what I want to do and that I am the one that says what happens with my body. Someone else should not dictate what I do with my body, and someone else should not dictate what my choice is. I have the choice to breastfeed or to give my son's formula or to do both. I should not have to hear someone bullying me and telling me what I needed to do for my son. As long as I was not doing anything harmful to them, then I should be able to make that choice. I had a conversation with my husband. He had a different perspective about breastfeeding, but ultimately he said, whatever you want to do, I will support it. And I definitely did a lot of research. I connected with Lactation League in Brooklyn. I was there with them. I believe some folks call them the breastfeeding Nazis, which I don't know why. They were really, really supportive. Those moms had a lot of stories. We talked. I found out about fenugreek. I learned that utilizing carrots or carrot juice will help with my milk supply. I learned a lot of different tips and tricks along the way by collaborating with a network of women that was just there to support me and not tell me what I should do with my body or with my twins. And even within my own friend network, I had other moms, some who breastfed and some who did not. And they basically just kept checking in on me to make sure that I was okay and supporting me and telling me that I could do it. And by God's grace and mercy, I was able to successfully do it. But yes, it does take a lot of dedication. It is hard work, especially when you have folks around you that are telling you that you can't do it and they're pressuring you to utilize formula. And I never used the bottle as well because I wondered and I worried as well. What if I introduce the bottle and then they become accustomed to the bottle and they refuse my breast? I didn't want that to happen at all.
I really admire you because you came, there's a lot of barriers that you had and a lot of obstacles. And when I say barriers and obstacles, I'm referring to like formula and just that negativity behind actually pursuing exclusive breastfeeding. You could have given to the cans of formula that was, that you received, or even your family member who said to you, oh, you can't do both, but despite and even that lactation consultant that you met in Harlem, like despite all of that, you still continue to exclusively breastfeed and not and your husband as well. The fact that he had a different thought, maybe he felt that maybe he could have given the bottle sometimes, give you opportunity to rest. I'm just making
He
an
did. You're
assumption.
absolutely right because he saw that I was tired. He said, "Why don't you just do it? It's okay. It doesn't matter." But for
Yeah.
me, it did matter because of the benefits of breastfeeding, not just for my twins, but also for
Wow. So I really truly admire that because, this is some of, of the, what a lot of families or moms, this is the things that they think about. Will I get enough rest? Am I able to do it? My thoughts, as you shared, it's what makes you feel best, what makes you feel comfortable, what's going to help you really just feel like you've achieved what you needed to achieve. And sometimes those challenges exist. And, that's why I decided and I thought it was so important for the audience, our community to hear from you, just to know that it's possible and that obstacles do exist. And then it's not going to be easy path or journey. There are little obstacles or great obstacles sometimes for some people along the way. And the fact that you receive pressure to formula feed and you handle it so well. And I think that's awesome. How about pumping? Did you use a breast pump? When did you start introducing a breast pump? Did you ever introduce breast pumping because you have to? And
well, when I was home, I did not use a pump at all. I exclusively breastfed and I actually used my hands because I don't know, for me, the pump at the beginning, it made my nipples sore. I just did not like that and the suction. And I did a lot of research to eventually find the right breast pump that worked for me. And I utilized the pump when I went back to work because obviously at that time you can't have your children at work when you're working. I would pump and put it in the bag and I would freeze it and the nanny would just feed my sons using my cup at that time.
okay.
And when they became older, I think they were about 9 months old, that's when they were able to use the bottle with the breast milk. But at that time they were only 9 months old. I wasn't really worried about what will happen because they were doing amazingly well and at least they were still getting the breast milk.
Okay. So they never really got to a bottle at all. They went
Mm.
straight into the cup feeding
Correct.
and they accepted a bottle at around 9 months, you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, it became a problem because the nanny said that they didn't like the bottle a lot. And at one point, she would have to cut the side of the milk and just kind of squeeze it in their mouth because they didn't
Okay.
want to use the bottle. It really didn't last long. I think it lasted maybe a week or two, but they didn't like the bottle at all. I would have to come home and really breastfeed them for them to even sleep. They just didn't like the bottle at
Okay.
all. They didn't.
And how did they eat at that time? Like,
At 9 months, I think the nanny started giving them some foods. I forgot the
yeah.
mouthful foods that the pediatrician recommended. They were able to eat some of that. But for the most part, in the morning, I definitely made sure they were fully fed. And at night, the nanny did give them the bottle. They didn't like it. They drank as much as they could. As soon as I came home, mommy's home. And they drank. When I say they drank, yeah, they didn't quite like the bottle, but they somehow endured.
How long did you stay home with your kids?
I tried to look up that information before. I believe I stayed home definitely more than 6 months. I think it
Okay.
might have been about 9 months that I was home because I remember at 9 months I had to give the nanny instructions about using the bottle. And in the beginning, they struggled a little bit with the bottle. Eventually, they took it, but they really never liked the bottle at all. She
Mhm.
would complain that they really didn't try it, and she would have to the set up the bag and give them the milk from the bag because they didn't want to use the bottle.
All right. Well, bottles, introducing bottles sometimes is a challenge. However, as you said, some babies honestly don't need to drink from bottles at all. Once they're 6 months, they can start their solids and go straight into cup feeding. And sometimes that does happen. But as you shared, the caretaker will have to be well on board and have the patience for sure. I would like to know, and this is a lot, maybe what a lot of moms should think about night schedule and feeding at night, especially for two babies. How did you do it? Did you establish a routine earlier on? Like, how did you navigate feeding at night?
For me, I had a routine from the very beginning, from the time they were in the hospital. The nurses and the doctors thought it was remarkable how I had everything down pat. I had a time for when they would eat, when they would sleep, when they would poop. When the nurses came on their round to ask me what time anything happened, I just showed them my phone and they wrote down the information. And I basically continued that for their entire childhood. I wrote down when they would eat, when they would sleep. In the beginning, I think the second twin, Xavier, he really wasn't in sync with his brother. However, I just continued waking them up at the same time and waking up. Eventually, you're going to have the same bowel movement. You're going to pee at the same time as well. And I think within about a week or two, they started being in sync. And I would just continue. And after a while, even now, being 11, they wake up at the same time and they go to the bathroom at the same time because I try to keep my sons in the same routine. They're like, and they're doing it by themselves. I hear them. As soon as I hear one, I know the other one is going to wake up because we have the same routine for everything. Eat at the same time. We try to make sure they go to bed at the same time. Routines are very, very important for children. And
That's
as
awesome.
babies, if you're waking them up, they kind of have no choice because you're telling them that they have to wake up right now and eat. And usually within 2 hours, they want to eat again. At least for my twins, they would eat every 2 hours. When they got older, every 3 hours. Yeah, you
Okay.
just have to maintain the routine. Some folks are opposed to putting babies on schedules. They want you to do it on demand.
Yeah.
But for me, having twins, I find that made me more exhausted to do it that way. I had to do what worked best for them and for me as well because I was constantly up and not sleeping. Whenever I would feed them and they would sleep, I would sleep. That's how I was able to maintain my sanity during that time because trying to do it the way that everyone else said did not work. I was up while they were sleeping, and then I find out eventually that it just wasn't going to work for me. And
Yeah,
so I had to
that's
pivot.
really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really great advice. Multiples, routines, and schedules or it's really important, to keep everything on track and to actually find space and time to really know that there is going to be a time for myself, even if it's X amount of time, you can anticipate that. So that's really great, that you were able to do that and that it's successful. And that is what usually is successful when you do things schedually. That's really awesome. Was there like, did you get an opportunity? Like, how is it like going outside? Did you breastfeed in public? Did you ever like would you stay home? Like, how was that in regards to the community and going out at that time? While you were home, like in the first 6 months?
I did not breastfeed in public because it's very difficult to do that. I would have to feed them one at a time, and I tried not to do that. For me, it was easier to feed them both together because it would make me less exhausted. Hence, I would literally, again, schedule everything. If I knew that I wanted to leave to go at a specific time, I would make sure that I fed them ahead of time, make sure they got burped, they peed or pooped, etc. and I would time how long it would take for them to get hungry again, and then I would just drive home. Obviously, I had a double stroller that by itself was a task, but I always had help, whether it was my husband or my nanny or someone else that would help me with the stroller. But I really didn't breastfeed in public at all because I tried to do tandem feeding for them to save time and to maintain my routine with them.
So that's really awesome. So you got the opportunity to really just be so, I guess, organized with that. And that is sometimes can be very challenging, especially if you have to run and do errands and if you don't have the support. And I think that is, really important, especially for a lot of moms. And I'm glad that you shared the support that you've had. And I think it's important for the audience to even hear that having support is essential a lot of times, especially when it comes to getting the babies fed when they get older, having that nanny, having a husband, having a friend, really getting opportunity to do run errands and not carrying them with you. So I think that is very important. And so it's only when you went back to work you started using a breast pump. I know we talked about that. Is there any particular myths that you want to share about breastfeeding twins that you feel like a lot of people have been telling you? I know you mentioned already that it's impossible. Someone,
Right.
your family said that. Is there any more that you have to share or you've heard?
Some of the other myths that had I have personally heard said to me and others, besides it's impossible, is that you are not going to be able to produce enough milk. It's impossible for a mom to feed multiples. And again, it is not impossible. I believe that for most of us, unless there's some sort of medical issue, you will be able to produce milk for both of your babies. It's a matter of just continuing to try your best to be able to feed them. And you can use different things. For me, I did the carrot juice, the natural carrot juice. I know some moms did fenugreek if they had issues with their milk supply. And I just continued to have them feed because once they're breastfeeding, then your body is accustomed to producing the milk. But if you stop, let's say, for example, you breastfeed for maybe 2 months and you stop for 2 months and you want to go back, you're going to have a reduced supply of milk because of that period where you stop breastfeeding. You have to continually breastfeed, and your body will adjust and be able to produce enough milk for you to feed your babies. And I'm by no means saying that anyone should exclusively breastfeed. It's up to each mom as to what they want to do. I just want to say to anyone in the audience who's thinking about it or is having challenges, just know that it is possible to breastfeed one child or even multiple children. It is not impossible at all.
Mental health has been something that has been on the rise, a lot of mental health challenges, postpartum, depression, blues, for many different reasons. How did you stay motivated, especially when you had those tough times?
Luckily for me, I'm a licensed social worker, hence I had a head start about things that you can do to maintain self-care, having a positive mindset. I did my research to find out what worked and what did not work. I listened to my body to know what was working well, not working well. At times when I felt I needed support, I asked for the help that I needed to those people that I knew would give me the support without being judgmental towards me. I believe that it is important to sleep as well too. When you're not getting enough sleep, it will contribute to whether it is mental health concerns or even possibly impacting postpartum because you have to sleep. If your body's not resting, you cannot function at all. Also getting stressors or pressure from whether it's your pediatrician or medical professionals or family members, anyone telling you what you cannot do can be very impactful to a new mom or even a mom who had a child before but now decide that they want to breastfeed. And just really listen to your body, know what is working, what is not working. If you're feeling symptoms of sadness, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily depressed. It just means that there's something that you really need to think about and look into and seek help to get assistance with that. It is okay to also see a therapist if you're struggling with something. I know the stigma sometimes in the BIPOC community is that if you want to see a therapist, that means you're crazy. It does not mean you're crazy at all. It just means that you need someone to listen to you and to be able to help you deal with whatever challenge that you're facing at that particular time. And when you get help for yourself as a mom, you can also help your children. If you're not able to take care of yourself, you can't take care of your children at all. And take care of you first, just like in the airplane. You have to pull down the mask, the oxygen mask for yourself, cover yourself, then you put it on your child or children. You can't put it on your children first when you're suffocating. And take care of you first. Do what is best for you, get help. You cannot do it alone. I mean, it's not impossible to do it alone, but it's very challenging to do it by yourself. So have a circle of support, whether it's family, friends, or a program such as the Later League. There are lots of programs for moms who are breastfeeding. Do a Google search, reach out to your community. Just be around others that will support your decision and support you through the difficult times because it is not impossible. Anything is possible as long as you work towards it, you're open-minded, and you're optimistic. Just never, ever, ever give up. Just hang in there. Many of us have done it. You too can do it as well.
That's amazing advice. Thank you so much. I know, sometimes, having the mental stresses and the overwhelm, and everyone's life situation is different. But as you shared, it's so important that you do reach out to your provider, to the services that are available to find out how can you, learn and cope, whatever particular challenges you may be going through. Because at the end of the day, a healthy mom is so important to take care of and make sure her babies are healthy, and that includes her mind and mindset and getting enough rest as you shared. Speaking of rest, safe sleep is something that is very common. I hear a lot of moms in general are even concerned about how am I going to feed these babies every 2 hours, even just one baby, right? And I'm not getting enough rest. I'm getting up every 2 hours. Was there anything that how you set your space up that made it a little more convenient? I know you said you breastfed them both at the same time. Did you always breastfeed them the same time? And how was it at night? And because you didn't bottle feed your children, how did you arrange sleeping with them in a safe way?
All about being organized and scheduling and having research done. In the beginning, as I noted, I fed them one at a time, but I quickly found out that did not work for me because I wasn't getting enough rest. I had purchased a pillow, I'm not quite sure what it's called these days, that allowed me to be able to put one on the right, one on the left, and I was able to feed them at the same time. Their cribs were also in the same bedroom, hence I didn't have to go to a different room, feed them if I heard them crying. As soon as they cried or my alarm went off, depending on what it was. If they were crying, it's probably because they wanted to be changed because I had them a routine as to when they would feed when my alarm went off for them to be fed. I would put the pillow around me, depending on what stage they were. When they were younger, my husband had to help me, but the older they got, I was able to do it because they were bigger. And they got used to the routine whereby they would just adjust their head as well too, and they latched right on because they know that it was feeding time. Really, for me, it was just making sure that the cribs were in the same room, having the alarm clock that went off when it was time to feed them, to change them, and just being consistent with that particular routine. Obviously, sleeping on their back is best, and I definitely recommend that because a lot can go wrong when you have your children sleeping face down. They could suffocate, they could die, they're sick. And I know some parents prefer to have their children sleep in the same bed with them. I had two. I don't even recommend it for one. I definitely did not recommend doing that at all, and I still don't. I had co-sleepers. At times, I used that in the bed when I was really tired, especially in the beginning. I would put them one on each side in the co-sleeper, and they were on the same bed. During the day, at night, I would use a pillow to be able to ensure that I could feed them. I didn't use the co-sleeper. The only time that I would do that is if I was really, really tired, but I usually just make sure that I kept a routine and had them in the same room. That way I wasn't going up and down the stairs or outside of the room.
So looking back at your breastfeed journey, 11 years ago, even what you now know, is there anything you would have done different?
Absolutely. I would have done my research before I gave birth about breastfeeding and all the resources, thinking back to the fact that I had to go all the way to Harlem and I had to call different folks to get information. I was on YouTube. I already have the twins here. It was just a lot of work to do the research at that particular time. And also making sure that I told everyone ahead of time what the decision was regarding that I wanted to breastfeed. I believe I didn't do that because there was a lot of information about sometimes the twins are born prematurely, they have to be at the NICU, and then what if something happens to one of their organs? And so I didn't want to prejudge or make a decision about what I would do because I had no idea what would happen when I would give birth and what would happen after I give birth. Hence, I just kind of took it step by step to see where they're at and just work with whatever happened at the time of birth. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with them being in the NICU. They were born and we had no struggles at the very beginning. I know that's not everyone's story at all. Sometimes babies have to go to the NICU and that in of itself sometimes can create issues because you're separated from your child. You don't have them in the same room. For me, my sons were in the same room with me when I was hospitalized and I was recovering, and that helped with the bonding as well too.
And how do you think, do you believe that your breastfeeding journey has impacted your relationship with your children in a way, in a unique way? Like, how is the relationship with your boys now, even throughout infancy and childhood, and right now they're 11, they're getting into, soon they're like adolescents soon,
Right,
right? So
right.
how is the relationship? Do you think that breastfeeding contributes to anything?
Well, I do support the research that breastfeeding supports optimal bonding with your children because for me personally, I found that when I breastfed, it made me feel closer to my sons, and they definitely gravitated a lot towards me. As it relates to their health, I did not have any medical issues with them because they had the best milk. It wasn't diluted, it wasn't from another source, such as a cow. It came from a human being, which is what they're meant to have. It wasn't processed in a way that they would spit up or have any kind of digestion issues. And I feel very proud of the fact that I was able to utilize my body in a way that it was meant to be able to give them the nutrients that they needed to grow and not just grow, but flourish and meet their milestones. But to answer your question, I think it definitely helped with the bonding, even at that particular time. It helped them develop and meet their milestones without having any issues. And even right now, we're still very, very close. My mom said the same thing about my younger brother. Even though I was breastfed partially, my brother was breastfed longer, and they bonded more than me being bottle fed. And I definitely would support for anyone who wants to have optimal bonding with their children to definitely breastfeed. Not to say that it can't happen with a bottle. But I believe just having them in your arms, and I believe there was one parent at La Leche League that said that the babies will smell your body and they will know when you enter the room because they could smell the milk that you're coming. And that's true. There are many times, as soon as I walked through the door, I don't know how they knew mommy was home, but they would immediately look towards the door. I don't know if it was a timing thing. I have no idea, but it's almost as if they knew that I was there and it was time for them to be fed. It was very, very interesting having twins and breastfeeding them. For me, it was an amazing experience. I would definitely do it again if I could have a choice to do that. I'm definitely not trying to get pregnant though, for anyone listening. No way, I am finished. However, if I had to have a choice between bottle fed formula or breastfeeding, I would definitely choose feeding them via the breast and not using formula because for me, it made a significant change in our relationship and it made us bond a lot.
So to, wrap up of our discussion, I just wanted to ask you what would be one last tip, suggestion to a mom who is thinking about it, maybe it's her first, or maybe it's her second or third, and she's never breastfed before, or she's anticipating having twins, right? What is something, or she's gonna have twin babies. What is something you think that is so important that she needs to know?
I would say to a new mom, whether you had a child before or not, or whatever your experience is right now, just being a mom, know that you have the ability to make a choice as to what happens with your body and what happens with your baby. Don't let anyone tell you that you have to do something. It's not a matter of have. Everything is a choice. Be open to all the information that you're being provided, whether it's by family, friends, or the medical professional. But ultimately, do your own research, do what's best for you and your baby. I know no two babies are alike, no two situations are alike, no two families are alike. Not everyone is going to have the same resources and support system, but just do what's best for you and your baby and know that you have the ability to do what's best for you and your baby. You can make that decision. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't. You don't know what's right for you because you're a new mom. You don't know what you're doing. You ultimately know what's best for you and your baby. Hence, just do the best and get help. Don't struggle alone. Get help if you need help. There's no need for you to be alone. If you are alone in this journey, it's going to make it very difficult for you to be successful in breastfeeding your newborn. Just having to give birth by itself comes with a lot of new changes to one's body as a new mom. You definitely need some support. And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to have a nanny or someone there 24 hours, 7 days per week, but some support will be needed in order for you to be successful, for you to be able to reset and rest and enjoy being a new mom. It's not just about breastfeeding or formula fed. You have to enjoy the experience of being a mom to your newborn child. Children are precious. They are a gift. However, if you're stressed and you're worried about what's happening from minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, then more than likely you're not going to be successful in your journey as a new mom. And I hope for all moms to be successful no matter what their choice is. Hence, do what's best for you and your baby. Do not struggle alone. You can be successful. Lots of women have done it before, and we will continue to do well. Just do what's best for you.
Thank you so much, Josephine, for your time. I do want the audience to have opportunity, and you let me know if it's possible, but for them to reach out to you. I know that you support women with the Sprouting for Success. Could you tell them a little bit more about what you do, your work, and how you help women and families, or in general, with their personal, lifestyle, entrepreneur careers, or in general, public speaking?
You for that opportunity, Ashley. I am the CEO of Sprouting for Success. I believe that we all have the seed of greatness within us, hence the acronym Sprouting for Success. I believe we all are born with a seed, and it's up to us to water and flourish that seed, and we'll be able to grow into whatever it is that we're meant to grow in, whether it's a flower, a tree, whatever it is your destiny is. You have to know that you have to flourish, but you cannot flourish unless you water that seed. My goal in Sprouting for Success is to connect with women or anyone who wants to be able to be great and to be able to fulfill their potential and not just be average. Being average is okay if that's what you want to be, but if you want to be able to fulfill the potential that you were born with, I'm the right person to connect with. I will ensure that I collaborate with you to do what's best for you to reach your goals and to elevate yourself. I do have a website, www.sproutingforsuccess, which is the number four, not FOUR, just the number four for success. And I can always share that information with Ashley. I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. You can always connect with me. I am a motivational speaker. I'm also a Toastmaster and a public speaker. If you want to improve your public speaking skills, by all means, reach out to me as well too. But for me, it's really about forming a connection and a community with those who want to be able to excel and do well. And if you want to elevate yourself to the next platform, reach out to me. Let's connect and let's see what's the next chapter for you. Know, though, that nothing will happen unless you put in the work. And I'm here to be your co-pilot if you're ready for the next step in your life.
Thank you. Thank you, Josephine. It was wonderful, wonderful interview. I appreciate you. And thank you, everyone, for listening today to Josephine's wonderful story of breastfeeding her twins. And I hope that it gave you an opportunity to really go steadfast on your goals and know that anything is possible if it's something that you really believe and truly want to do. Until we meet again on Voices of Milk and Motherhood, have a wonderful day. We'll speak again.
And thank you, Ashley, for having me. It's been a pleasure. And thank you to the audience for listening to my story. I do hope that I make a difference in at least one mom. Bye.
Bye.